machine!
The glass door of the intensive care unit exploded inward. Shards scattered across the pristine white floor like 1,000 frozen tears. A woman stumbled through the wreckage, barefoot and wild-eyed, her hospital gown torn and stained. Her name was Celeste Harmon, and every nurse in Mercy General knew her as the crazy woman from Ward 7. "Turn them off!" Celeste screamed, pointing a trembling finger at the machines surrounding Bed 14. "Turn off every single machine and your son walks out of here. I swear it on my life." Her voice cracked with desperate certainty, echoing through the unit like a prophecy no one wanted to hear. Standing beside the bed was Warren Kincaid, one of the wealthiest real estate developers in Boston. His suit, usually immaculate, hung wrinkled on his frame. Dark circles carved shadows beneath his eyes. He stared at the woman with his mouth open, unable to process what was happening. His 17-year-old son, Elliot, lay motionless in the bed, tubes snaking from his arms, a ventilator breathing for him. The boy had been like this for 11 days. 11 days of no movement, no hope, no answers. "Security!" A woman's voice cut through the chaos. That was Dr. Miranda Ashford, head of the neurology department and Warren's personal physician for the past decade. She wore a crisp white coat and an expression of controlled fury. "Get this patient back to psychiatric before she hurts someone." Two orderlies rushed forward, their hands reaching for Celeste's arms. She twisted away from them, her bare feet slipping on the glass. Blood bloomed on the tiles where she stepped, but she didn't seem to notice or care. Her eyes stayed locked on Warren. "Mr. Kincaid, please listen to me." Celeste's voice dropped to something raw and honest. "Your son doesn't need those machines. They're what's keeping him under. I know because the same thing happened to my daughter. The same exact thing. They kept her in a coma for 3 months until I figured out the truth." Warren's face went pale. You had a daughter in a coma?" "Don't engage with her, Warren," Dr. Ashford said sharply, stepping between them. "She's a paranoid schizophrenic with severe delusions. Everything she says is a fabrication designed to manipulate you. Elliot's condition is the result of traumatic brain injury from the car accident. The machines are the only things keeping him alive." The orderlies finally grabbed Celeste's arms, pinning them behind her back. She struggled, her hospital gown twisting around her thin frame. "He's lying to you. Check the medication logs. Check what they're pumping into your son through those IVs. It's not just saline and nutrients. There's something else. Something that keeps patients sedated indefinitely." "That's enough," Dr. Ashford's voice rose with authority. She turned to Warren, her expression softening into practiced sympathy. "Warren, I know you're desperate for answers. Any father would be. But this woman is mentally ill. She broke out of the psychiatric ward because she stopped taking her antipsychotic medication 3 days ago. Nothing she says has any basis in reality." Warren watched as the orderlies dragged Celeste backward toward the door. Her feet left bloody streaks on the floor. Her eyes never left his face, burning with an intensity that made his chest tighten. Something about her felt wrong. Not her behavior. That was clearly disturbed. But the way Dr. Ashford was dismissing her so quickly, so completely. "Mr. Kincaid," Celeste shouted as they pulled her through the doorway. "My daughter's name is Sienna Harmon. Look her up. She was a patient here 18 months ago. Room 304. Dr. Ashford treated her too. Ask why she never woke up. Ask what happened after I disconnected the machines myself." The door slammed shut, cutting off her voice. The intensive care unit fell silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of Elliot's monitors. Warren stood frozen, his hands clenched at his sides. His heart hammered against his ribs. Dr. Ashford placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "I'm so sorry you had to witness that. I'll make sure security protocols are tightened immediately. That woman should never have been able to get near this unit." Warren nodded slowly, but he couldn't shake the image of Celeste's desperate face. What she said about her daughter? Is that true? Was there a patient named Sienna Harmon? Dr. Ashford's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Something Warren had never seen before. There was a patient by that name, Yes. A teenage girl who suffered severe brain damage from a drug overdose. Her mother was in complete denial about the extent of the injuries. When the girl didn't wake up as quickly as she wanted, Celeste developed paranoid delusions about the hospital trying to kill her daughter. She became violent, was admitted to psychiatric, and Dr. Ashford paused, choosing her words carefully. The girl passed away 3 weeks later from complications. So she died? Yes, Warren. And I know what you're thinking, but disconnecting life support from a coma patient is not a miracle cure. It's murder. Celeste Harmon killed her own daughter through negligence and mental illness. That's why she's institutionalized. That's why you cannot, under any circumstances, listen to her. Warren looked down at Elliot's pale face. His son had always been so full of life, so quick to laugh. Now he looked like a wax figure, perfect and still, and utterly absent. The car accident had been so sudden. Elliot had been driving home from basketball practice when a truck ran a red light. The impact had sent his car spinning into a concrete barrier. Traumatic brain injury, Dr. Ashford had said. Severe swelling. Medically induced coma to protect the brain. Standard protocol. But it had been 11 days. Warren couldn't sleep that night. He sat in the chair beside Elliot's bed, watching the monitors trace their endless patterns. Every 15 minutes, a nurse came in to check the IVs, adjust the medications, record numbers on a clipboard. They moved with practiced efficiency, barely acknowledging his presence. At 2 a.m, Warren pulled out his phone. His hand shook as he typed the name into the search bar. Sienna Harmon. The first result was an obituary from 17 months ago. Sienna Marie Harmon, age 16, died peacefully at Mercy General Hospital, surrounded by family. The photo showed a beautiful girl with dark curls and a bright smile. Warren's throat tightened. She looked so young, so alive in the picture. According to the obituary, she had been an honor student, a talented violinist, beloved by everyone who knew her. Warren scrolled further. There were news articles about the case, though they were brief and buried deep in local coverage. Mother arrested after disconnecting daughter's life support. Psychiatric evaluation ordered in hospital incident. Grieving mother's mental break ends in tragedy. The articles painted Celeste as unstable, dangerous, consumed by conspiracy theories. They quoted Dr. Ashford extensively, explaining how families sometimes couldn't accept the reality of permanent brain damage, how grief could twist into delusion, how Celeste's actions had killed her daughter. But then, Warren found something else. A blog post on a medical advocacy website written 6 months ago by someone using the username TruthSeeker2024. The post was titled, "My Daughter Didn't Have to Die." My name is Celeste Harmon, it began. I'm writing this from a psychiatric facility where I've been held against my will for over a year. I'm told I'm crazy. I'm told I killed my daughter. But I know the truth, and I need someone to listen before they silence me permanently. Warren leaned forward, his heart pounding. The post continued. Sienna was admitted to Mercy General after what they claimed was a drug overdose. But my daughter never used drugs. Never. She was terrified of them after watching her uncle struggle with addiction. When I found her unconscious in her bedroom, there were no pills, no needles, no evidence. Just my beautiful girl, not breathing. Warren's hands gripped the phone tighter. The doctors put her in a medically induced coma. Dr. Miranda Ashford told me it was to reduce brain swelling, that it was standard procedure. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was a respected neurologist, and I was just a terrified mother. But weeks passed, and Sienna didn't wake up. Every time I asked about reducing the sedation, Dr. Ashford found a reason to keep it going. More swelling, unstable vitals, risk of seizures. Always another reason. I started noticing things. The way certain nurses avoided eye contact when they adjusted her IVs. The medication logs that didn't match what was actually being administered. The bills from my insurance company showing treatments that were never explained to me. Warren felt ice forming in his stomach. I hired a private investigator. He discovered that Dr. Ashford had been flagged twice by the medical board for unnecessary procedures and questionable billing practices. Both times, the investigations were quietly dropped after substantial donations were made to certain board members' preferred charities. My investigator also found 3 other cases in the past 5 years: patients in extended comas under Dr. Ashford's care, families billed hundreds of thousands of dollars, all ending in death after months of treatments. When I confronted Dr. Ashford with this information, she had me removed from the hospital by security. She got a court order restricting my access to Sienna, claiming I was mentally unstable and a danger to my daughter. 2 days later, I broke into the ICU at 3 in the morning. I disconnected every machine, keeping Sienna sedated. The alarms went off immediately, but I didn't care. I held my daughter and waited. Warren's breath caught, and then she opened her eyes. The words hit him like a physical blow. He read them again, making sure he understood correctly. Sienna had woken up. After 3 months in a supposed irreversible coma, she had opened her eyes the moment the machines were disconnected. For 60 seconds, Sienna was awake and aware. She looked at me. She tried to speak. I saw recognition in her eyes, saw my daughter coming back to me. Then hospital security burst in. Dr. Ashford was right behind them. She injected something directly into Sienna's IV port before I could stop her. Within seconds, Sienna's eyes rolled back. Her body went limp. The monitors flatlined. Dr. Ashford told security that I had killed my daughter by disconnecting life support. She told them that the medication she administered was a desperate attempt to save Sienna's life. She had witnesses, 3 nurses who backed up every word. I was arrested, evaluated, and committed. My daughter was cremated before I could demand an autopsy, and everyone believes I'm the crazy one. The post ended with a plea. If you're reading this and your loved one is in an extended coma at Mercy General Hospital under Dr. Miranda Ashford's care, please investigate. Please question. Please don't let them do to your family what they did to mine. The medication logs are the key. Demand to see them. Compare them against what the nurses are actually administering. Trust your instincts. And if you find proof, please go to the media. Go to the police. Don't let them silence you like they silenced me. Warren sat back in his chair, his mind reeling. The post had 17 comments, most of them dismissive or cruel. Delusional mother can't accept her daughter's death. Conspiracy theorist blaming doctors for her own failures. Someone needs to take down this harmful content. But one comment, posted just 3 days ago, made Warren's blood run cold. It was from a user named Grieving Father 88. My wife was a patient under Dr. Ashford's care last year. Persistent vegetative state after a stroke, they said. 5 months of treatment, $500,000 in bills. Then she died. I never questioned it until now. I just looked at the medication logs from her stay. There's a drug listed that was administered daily. Propranolol, 200 mg IV push. When I called the hospital pharmacy to ask what that was for, they said there was no record of that medication ever being prescribed to my wife. The logs were falsified. I'm contacting a lawyer tomorrow. Warren's heart hammered in his chest. He looked at the IV pole beside Elliot's bed. 3 bags hung there, their contents dripping steadily into his son's veins. Normal saline, nutrition formula, and a 3rd bag labeled simply, medication per Dr. Ashford's orders. Warren stood up slowly. His legs felt unsteady beneath him. He walked to the IV pole and examined the 3rd bag more closely. There was no detailed label, no drug name, no dosage information. Just that vague description and Dr. Ashford's name. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text message from an unknown number. Mr. Kincaid, this is Celeste Harmon. A friend smuggled me a phone. I don't have much time. Check your son's medication logs from the hospital pharmacy. Compare them against what's actually being administered. Room 304 maintenance closet. False panel behind the shelf. Evidence. Please, before they kill him too. Warren stood in the ICU hallway at 4 in the morning, his hand hovering over the handle of the maintenance closet. The 3rd floor was quiet except for the distant sound of monitors and the soft footsteps of nurses making their rounds. His heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his throat. He opened the door. The closet was exactly what you'd expect. industrial shelves stocked with cleaning supplies, extra linens, and medical equipment. Warren stepped inside and closed the door behind him, using his phone's flashlight to search the back wall where Celeste had indicated. Behind the bottom shelf, his fingers found an edge that didn't quite match the wall. He pulled, and a small panel came loose, revealing a shallow cavity. Inside was a waterproof plastic bag containing a USB drive and a folded piece of paper. Warren pulled out the paper with shaking hands. It was a medication log, photocopied and highlighted in yellow. Patient name: Sienna Marie Harmon. The log showed daily administrations of propofol, a powerful sedative used to maintain medically induced comas. But someone had written notes in the margins. Dosage excessive. Patient should wake with reduction. Dr. A refuses adjustment. Day 47. Patient showed spontaneous movement. Dr. A increased dosage immediately. Why? The handwriting was small and precise. At the bottom of the page was a signature: Janet Reeves, RN. Warren plugged the USB drive into his phone using an adapter. The drive contained dozens of files: medication logs, billing records, insurance claims, and patient files. All from Mercy General Hospital. All involving patients under Dr. Miranda Ashford's care. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the documents. The pattern was unmistakable. Patients admitted with treatable conditions, strokes, accidents, overdoses, were placed in medically induced comas. The comas were then extended far beyond medical necessity through excessive sedation. Meanwhile, the families were billed for increasingly expensive treatments, experimental therapies, consultations with specialists, state-of-the-art monitoring equipment. One file showed a patient who had been kept in a coma for 7 months. The total bill, $1.4 million. Another patient, 9 months, $2.1 million. The insurance companies paid, the families went bankrupt covering the rest, and every single patient eventually died, ensuring no one could testify about what had really happened. Warren found a spreadsheet near the end of the files. It listed 23 names over the past 6 years. 23 patients, 23 deaths. Estimated revenue generated $18.7 million. His son's name was at the bottom of the list: Elliot Kincaid. Estimated treatment duration, 6 to 8 months. Projected revenue, $900,000. Warren's vision blurred with rage and terror. His son wasn't dying from the car accident. His son was being kept in a coma, deliberately, systematically, for money. Dr. Ashford wasn't trying to save Elliot. She was farming him for insurance payments. A sound in the hallway made Warren freeze. Footsteps approaching. He quickly shoved the documents back into the plastic bag and tucked it under his jacket. He replaced the false panel and stepped out of the closet just as a nurse rounded the corner. "Mr. Kincaid?" The nurse looked surprised to see him. "Is everything all right?" "Fine," Warren said, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Just needed to stretch my legs." The nurse nodded, though her expression suggested she didn't quite believe him. "Well, try to get some rest. Dr. Ashford will be making rounds at 7. Warren walked back to Elliot's room, his mind racing. He couldn't confront Dr. Ashford directly. She had too much power, too many allies in the hospital. If he accused her without overwhelming proof, she'd have him removed from the premises, just like she'd done to Celeste. She might even accelerate whatever she was planning for Elliot. He needed help. Real help. Someone with authority who couldn't be bought or intimidated. Warren pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the name he was looking for. Detective Raymond Torres, Boston PD. They'd met 2 years ago at a charity event. Torres had mentioned he worked in the healthcare fraud division. Warren sent a text. "Ray, this is Warren Kincaid. I need your help urgently. Can we meet today? It's about my son and possible criminal activity at Mercy General Hospital." The response came back within minutes. "Warren, good to hear from you. Though I'm sorry about the circumstances. I'm actually already investigating Mercy General for irregularities in billing and patient care. Can you meet me at the 4th Street Diner at 6 a.m.? Come alone and bring whatever evidence you have. Warren felt a surge of hope. He wasn't alone in this. Someone else had already spotted the pattern. He looked at Elliot's peaceful face and made a silent promise. I'm going to save you, son. Whatever it takes. At 5:45 a.m., Warren kissed Elliot's forehead and left the hospital. He drove through the empty Boston streets, the plastic bag of evidence sitting on the passenger seat. The 4th Street Diner was a hole-in-the-wall place that served truckers and night shift workers. Warren spotted Detective Torres immediately, a stocky man in his 50s with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. Torres stood when Warren approached. They shook hands, and Torres gestured to the booth he'd claimed in the back corner. Show me what you've got. Warren handed over the USB drive and the medication logs. Torres plugged the drive into a laptop and spent 15 minutes reviewing the files in silence. His expression grew darker with each document. Where did you get this? Torres asked finally, his voice low. Does it matter? Warren countered. Is it enough to stop her? Torres leaned back and rubbed his face. It's enough to open an official investigation, which I can do today. But Warren, you need to understand something. Dr. Ashford has been doing this for years because she's careful. She has relationships with hospital administrators, insurance company executives, even some judges. Taking her down is going to require more than documents. We need witnesses. We need someone who was directly involved in the scheme willing to testify. What about the nurse whose handwriting is on the medication logs? Janet Reeves? Warren asked desperately. Torres's expression grew grim. Janet Reeves died 4 months ago. Single car accident on Route 93. Her car went off a bridge. No witnesses. Warren felt sick. That wasn't an accident. Probably not, Torres agreed, but we can't prove it. Look, Warren, I believe you. I believe your son is in danger. But if you disconnect those machines without legal authorization, Dr. Ashford will have you arrested for attempted murder. She'll paint you as a desperate father who snapped under pressure. You'll go to jail, and she'll keep treating Elliot exactly as she has been. So what do I do? Warren's voice cracked. Just let her keep poisoning my son while you build a case that might take months? Torres pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. Take this. It's the name and number of a federal prosecutor I trust. She's been investigating healthcare fraud across multiple hospitals. If I brief her today, and she agrees to fast-track this case, we might be able to get a warrant and raid the hospital within 48 hours. But Warren, you have to promise me you won't do anything rash in the meantime. Don't confront Dr. Ashford. Don't disconnect the machines. Let us handle this legally. Warren took the card, but he didn't promise anything. 48 hours? Maybe less if we move fast. Can you give me that time? Warren thought about Elliot, lying motionless in that bed, poison dripping into his veins. He thought about Celeste Harmon, branded crazy and locked away for trying to save her daughter. He thought about 23 other families who had trusted Dr. Ashford and lost everything. I'll wait, Warren lied. Thank you, Ray. Warren returned to the hospital at 7:30. Dr. Ashford was already in Elliot's room, reviewing the monitors with her usual clinical detachment. She looked up when Warren entered, her expression shifting into practiced sympathy. Warren, good morning. I was just about to come find you. We need to discuss Elliot's prognosis. Warren's jaw tightened. What about it? Dr. Ashford gestured to the chair, waiting until Warren sat before continuing. The brain scans we took yesterday show increased swelling in the frontal lobe. I'm concerned that even if Elliot wakes up, he may have sustained permanent cognitive damage. Loss of memory, impaired motor function, possible personality changes. Yesterday's scans? Warren kept his voice neutral. I don't remember anyone mentioning new scans. We took them while you were getting coffee, Dr. Ashford said smoothly. Standard protocol. The point is, Warren, we need to prepare ourselves for the possibility that Elliot may never be the person he was before the accident. Some families in this situation choose to discuss end-of-life options. There it was, the setup. Keep Elliot sedated until the family was exhausted and desperate, then suggest letting him die. Another patient off the books before they could wake up and tell the truth. I'm not ready to have that conversation, Warren said carefully. Dr. Ashford's expression flickered with something that might have been annoyance. Of course not. I understand completely. But Warren, as Elliot's doctor and your friend, I have to be honest with you. The longer he remains in this state, the worse his chances become. I've seen this scenario too many times. Families hold on to hope long past the point of medical reality, and it only prolongs everyone's suffering. How many families? Warren asked suddenly. How many times have you had this exact conversation? Dr. Ashford paused. I'm not sure I understand the question. Simple question. How many coma patients under your care have died in the past 5 years? Dr. Ashford's professional mask slipped for just a second. Warren saw calculation in her eyes, saw her weighing how much to reveal. Medicine isn't perfect, Warren. We lose patients. It's tragic, but it's reality. I don't keep a tally because I'm focused on the patients I can still help, like your son. 23, Warren said quietly. You've lost 23 coma patients in 6 years. All of them died after extended treatment periods. All of them generated massive medical bills. That's not a tragic coincidence. That's a pattern. Dr. Ashford stood abruptly. Her face had gone pale, then flushed with anger. Warren, I think grief is affecting your judgment. You're making wild accusations based on evidence, Warren interrupted. Medication logs, billing records, patient files. I have all of it. And I've already shared it with the police. The silence that followed was electric. Dr. Ashford's hands clenched at her sides. When she spoke again, her voice had lost all pretense of warmth. You broke into hospital records. That's illegal, Warren. Whatever you think you found is inadmissible and probably fabricated. I didn't break into anything. Someone gave me the evidence, someone who knew what you were doing and couldn't stay silent anymore. Celeste Harmon, Dr. Ashford said with contempt. A delusional mental patient? That's your source? Warren, think about what you're doing. You're destroying your son's chance at recovery, based on the ravings of a woman who killed her own daughter. Sienna didn't die from her injuries, Warren said, standing to face her. She died because you injected her with something to stop her heart when she started waking up. Just like you're planning to do with Elliot. Dr. Ashford's mask finally shattered completely. The sympathy vanished, replaced by cold fury. You have no idea what you're interfering with. This hospital runs on money, Warren. Insurance reimbursements, research grants, patient payments. Without revenue, we close our doors, and hundreds of people lose access to care. What I do generates millions that keep this entire facility operational. I save far more lives than I... She stopped abruptly, realizing she'd said too much. Then you end? Warren finished. That's your justification? You're killing people for hospital profits? Dr. Ashford straightened her coat, regaining some composure. You can't prove any of this. And even if you could, who do you think the hospital board will believe? A respected physician with 20 years of service, or a desperate father making accusations during a mental health crisis? By tomorrow morning, I'll have a psychiatric evaluation filed showing you're unfit to make medical decisions for Elliot. I'll get a court-appointed guardian assigned, and you'll be barred from this hospital. She walked toward the door, then paused. You should have trusted me, Warren. Elliot could have been comfortable through this process. Now, she looked back at him with something like pity. Now, he's going to suffer unnecessarily, and it's your fault. The door closed behind her. Warren stood trembling with rage and fear. He looked at Elliot's IV pole, at the bag labeled medication, per Dr. Ashford's orders, still dripping steadily into his son's veins. Detective Torres had told him to wait, to let the legal system handle it. But Dr. Ashford was moving now. She would accelerate her timeline, cover her tracks, maybe even arrange for Elliot to die tonight before the police could intervene. Warren made his decision. He reached for the IV line connected to the mysterious medication bag. His hands shook as he traced the tube down to where it connected to Elliot's arm. One quick disconnect. That's all it would take. Stop! The voice came from the doorway. Warren turned to find Celeste Harmon standing there, somehow free from the psychiatric ward. She looked wild and desperate, but also strangely lucid. Not like that, Celeste said, entering the room and closing the door behind her. If you just disconnect the IV, the alarms will go off. Security will be here in seconds. Dr. Ashford will inject him with something fatal and claim he crashed because you removed life support. I've seen her do it. Then what do I do? Warren asked desperately. Celeste moved to the IV pole with practiced efficiency. We switched the bags. I've been stealing saline bags from the medication carts for 2 days. Real saline, not her poison. We swap them out, then we disconnect the ventilator and see if he breathes on his own. The monitors will alarm when his oxygen levels drop, but by then, we'll know if I'm right. And if you're wrong? Warren's voice cracked. If you're wrong, he dies. He's dying anyway, Celeste said bluntly. Dr. Ashford told you herself. She's going to end this soon. You can wait for her to murder your son legally, or you can take the chance that I'm telling the truth. Your choice, but decide fast, because she's probably calling security right now. Warren looked at his son's face. He thought about Sienna Harmon opening her eyes for those 60 precious seconds before Dr. Ashford stopped her heart. He thought about 23 families who had trusted the system and lost everything. Do it, Warren said. Celeste worked quickly, replacing the medication bag with saline, while Warren kept watch at the door. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might burst. When the bag was switched, Celeste moved to the ventilator. Once I disconnect this, alarms will go off immediately, Celeste warned. You'll have maybe 3 minutes before the crash team arrives. If Elliot starts breathing on his own, you'll know I was right. If he doesn't, she didn't finish the sentence. Do it, Warren repeated. Celeste disconnected the ventilator. The alarms began shrieking immediately. Elliot's oxygen saturation numbers on the monitor started dropping. 98%, 95%, 92%. Warren grabbed his son's hand. Come on, Elliot. Breathe. Baby, please breathe. 88%, 85%, 82%. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Voices shouting. The crash team was coming. 78%, 75%. And then Elliot's chest moved. A small, shallow breath. Then another. The oxygen numbers stopped falling. They held at 74% for a long moment, then slowly began to climb. 76%, 79%, 82%. He's breathing, Warren sobbed. Oh God, he's breathing on his own. Elliot's eyelids fluttered. His fingers twitched in Warren's hand. After 11 days of motionless silence, Warren's son was waking up. The door burst open. Dr. Ashford rushed in with 3 nurses and 2 security guards. She saw the disconnected ventilator, saw Celeste standing by the bed, saw Elliot's chest rising and falling on its own. Her face went through shock, fury, and then something like desperation. He's breathing independently, one of the nurses said in amazement. His stats are stabilizing. Dr. Ashford recovered quickly. This is criminal negligence. Get them both out of here and reconnect that ventilator immediately. No, Warren said firmly. Touch my son again, and I'll have you arrested for attempted murder. Mr. Kincaid, you're hysterical, Dr. Ashford began. Federal agents are on their way to this hospital right now with a warrant for your arrest, Warren interrupted. Detective Torres from Healthcare Fraud Division has enough evidence to put you away for life. So you're going to step away from my son, and you're going to pray that he wakes up fully and can testify against you. Dr. Ashford's face went pale. She looked at the nurses, at the security guards, calculating her options. Then, she ran. She pushed past the security guards and disappeared down the hallway. One of the nurses pulled out her phone. Should we call? The police are already here, a voice said from the doorway. Detective Torres entered with 2 uniformed officers. Dr. Miranda Ashford, you're under arrest for healthcare fraud, reckless endangerment, and 23 counts of criminally negligent homicide. Torres moved past them into the hallway where Dr. Ashford had fled, but Warren didn't watch. His attention was entirely on Elliot, whose eyes were opening slowly, focusing with difficulty on his father's face. Dad? Elliot's voice was barely a whisper, rough from the breathing tube, but it was the most beautiful sound Warren had ever heard. I'm here, son, I'm right here. Celeste stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face. She'd been right. Sienna could have lived, should have lived, if only someone had believed her sooner. Warren reached out and took Celeste's hand. Thank you, he said simply. You saved his life. Over the next week, the investigation exploded across Boston news. Dr. Ashford was denied bail after prosecutors argued she was a flight risk and a continued danger to patients. The files from Celeste's hidden cache became the cornerstone of a federal case that expanded to include hospital administrators and insurance executives. Elliot made a full recovery. The brain swelling that Dr. Ashford had claimed was irreversible turned out to be fabricated. The scans she'd referenced didn't exist. Elliot had been sedated, nothing more. 2 weeks after waking up, he was cleared to go home. Celeste Harmon was released from psychiatric commitment after an independent evaluation found her completely sane. The diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia had been falsified by a psychiatrist on Dr. Ashford's payroll. Celeste wasn't crazy. She'd been right about everything. Warren used his considerable wealth and influence to establish the Sienna Harmon Foundation for Patient Advocacy, an organization dedicated to investigating medical fraud and protecting vulnerable patients. Celeste became its director. On the 6-month anniversary of Elliot's awakening, Warren and Celeste stood together at a press conference. Behind them were photographs of the 23 victims, men, women, children, who had died under Dr. Ashford's care. Sienna's picture was in the center. "We were told to trust the system," Warren said to the gathered reporters. "We were told that doctors always know best, that hospitals exist to heal, that questioning medical authority makes you paranoid or difficult. But sometimes the system itself is broken. Sometimes the people we're supposed to trust are the ones we should fear most." He gestured to Celeste beside him. This woman was called crazy for asking questions. She was locked away and discredited because she saw the truth and refused to be silent. If I had dismissed her, like everyone else did, my son would be dead. 23 families didn't get that second chance. But because of Celeste's courage and sacrifice, no more families will have to suffer what we suffered. Celeste stepped forward, her voice steady and strong. "Trust your instincts, question everything, demand answers and documentation. Your loved one's life might depend on your willingness to be difficult, to be loud, to refuse to accept easy answers when something feels wrong. And if someone tries to silence you, fight back harder." The camera flashes lit up their faces as they stood together. Two parents who had faced the unthinkable and survived. Behind them, Sienna's photograph smiled down, a reminder of what they were fighting for and why they would never stop. Because sometimes the craziest thing you can do is trust blindly, and sometimes the sanest thing you can do is question everything.